Hey everyone, it's Lindsey Vasquez with Keller Williams at the Gold Arrow Real Estate team. And today we are going to be chatting with one of our wonderful vendors in the insurance industry, Camellia Rezvani. Camellia, how are you?
Hi, Lindsay. Good, thanks. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Of course, we're doing awesome. We are so excited to have you here today, and we're
Thank
going to
you.
focus a lot on homeowners insurance. But I know that you're able to do a lot more insurance, and it actually can be really beneficial to a client when they're actually bundling multiple insurances together. So excited to hear from you.
Right, right. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Yes, so my name is Camellia, and I own ValCo Insurance Services here in Clovis. And just to give a little bit of a background of who I am and our agency, we started in 2007, and we specialize in all types of insurance. So whether it's auto, home, workers' comp, business, health, life, anything insurable really is what we do. So I'm glad to be able to share a little bit about myself and, be your one-stop shop for all your insurance needs. We've, like I said, been around for quite some time. So we've been through the ups and downs of the insurance industry. We've seen some things go up and down, and we're here to serve you and at the very least be able to offer you information about your policy, and not necessarily have to have your business as much as we'd love to, but we're here to help. So yes, specifically homeowners insurance is probably what you're looking for, and we do that. So yeah.
Awesome. So let's not get into the the home insurance part yet. Let's just talk a little bit about the different types of insurance that you can provide and how your company works, because a lot of people probably haven't heard of ValCo Insurance before. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Right. So we are a brokerage, and the difference between having an insurance broker and an insurance agent really just means that I'm not a captive agent. So I don't simply represent one company. I serve many different insurance companies depending on the client or the appetite that they're in for. So if there's tickets or accidents, we have a select number of carriers for those types of drivers. And then we have other types of carriers for those who have auto and home and umbrella packages, which is probably what most individuals are looking into. We can serve the client in the best way to shop around year after year and be able to place them with the right carrier. Regarding bundles, I'm sure everyone knows that the more you have with one company, the better it is as far as the rate. So yes, if you have an auto policy and you have a renter's policy or a homeowner's policy, you should definitely look into getting something called an umbrella policy, which typically just means something that covers you, whether it's your auto policy or your underlying homeowners or renters. That umbrella extends off of that underlying policy. So what does that mean? Really, it just means that if you're in a really bad car accident and the other party wants to sue you for limits that are higher than what your auto insurance covers, that's when that $1 million or $2 million life insurance, umbrella insurance will kick in. Same thing on the homeowner's insurance. If God forbid something happens at the insured premise and that personal liability policy that comes with your homeowner's insurance is not enough, that's when the umbrella will kick in as well. So I highly recommend, whether you're watching this and you already have homeowners insurance, contact your agent and do a review. 30 minutes a year is really all it takes to go over your coverages to make sure that you know what your risks are potentially, and are aware of them, and what you can do to protect yourself. And that's what we're here for. If you're a first-time homeowner, a lot of these coverages can seem overwhelming, the terminology and whatnot. So we're here to break it down and see what potential risks you have at your property and with your cars and with the drivers in your household, and to help you protect yourself against those.
That's awesome. So if someone wants to reach out to you to discuss their insurance, how much do you charge? Does it cost them anything to give you?
Oh, no, it's free of charge, and it's a free consultation. Whether you have insurance now or you're breaking off from parents for the first time and don't have really anything to go over, that's what we're here for. So we'll go over the coverages, the terminology, what it all means. A lot of times we have clients that purchase their policies through an online company, and we see this shift towards in the online competitors. And unfortunately, you sign up for policies not knowing what those coverages entail and what that all means for you, until, God forbid, something happens and you have a surprise. So definitely meet with your agent. I'm not saying it has to be me, but a local agent would be preferred, because you don't want to have to push extensions to find an agent and be on hold and have a different experience every time. But you want to call a local number and just speak with your agent and ask them a quick question. So we would love to have your business, but if not, just look for local agencies to support, and they will take care of you, I'm sure.
Awesome. So let's dive in a little bit more into homeowners insurance. And I'd like to touch on renters a little bit after we talk about homeowners insurance, because I think it's important. As a realtor, we have a lot of clients that might be first-time home buyers. They are moving from a rental apartment or even a rental home, and they've never had homeowners insurance before. And it's scary, I know, but I've heard of a lot of people that don't even have renters insurance. And so whether you're our client, you're buying, or you're just watching this to get educated, I think it's really important that you understand, even if you're a renter, how important that coverage is. So on the realtor side, when we are helping you purchase a new home, it's really important that we always encourage you to start your homeowners insurance search early, so that you are aware of the best coverages and options that are out there for you. And if you are purchasing a home with a loan, that loan cannot close until the loan officer and the escrow company have a copy of proof of insurance. So I know it's really important for us to kind of get started on this. And I've heard of a lot of lenders waiting till the last minute to ask their buyers to provide insurance information, and then people get really flustered. And I know that we can make that transition and that hunt for insurance a little bit easier. So let's talk about homeowners insurance, what it is. Let's dive deep. How much you estimate the cost, and then I want to touch on a little bit about fire insurance and the changes that you've seen in the insurance policies over the last couple of years as well.
Sure. That's a good point. So if you have your homeowner's insurance policy with you, and can dive into that, that would be great. But basically, your homeowner's policy is really just 5 parts, 5 individual sections that really pertain to the major aspects of your home. The first part being the structure, which is the most important coverage, which it says dwelling or coverage A, you'll find on your policy. And that's just the amount that it's going to take to rebuild your home. Now, cost of labor always is on the rise, cost of materials especially. So we want to always review with our clients and make sure that you are insured to value. It does not have really anything to do with the market value of your home. Your market value could fluctuate, or the same house, if you pick it up and you throw it in the Bay Area, it's worth triple, and that's because of the price of the land. But we also want to take into consideration that if there was a situation where there was a direct loss or a fire or anything like that, there's going to be debris removal that's costly, takes up a huge chunk of that dwelling amount. So typically here in the Fresno Clovis area, I use an evaluation of $200 a square foot. So if you use that and multiply it by your square footage, then you should have that magic number where we like to see our homeowners insured at.
That's
The
the number
next,
of coverage they would have.
I'm sorry?
That's the like, that would be the replacement cost for the property.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. Yeah. We just had an appraisal come in last week, and the appraised value or market value of the property was 355,000, but the cost to rebuild on the appraisal was around 365. So there was a little
Right,
bit of a difference. So
right. And that makes sense.
yeah, that
It
helps
makes sense.
buyers actually understand that number a little bit better. So that's good.
Right. Because a lot of times we get calls and they'll say, you know, my home is not worth that much, and can we lower it? And that could just be a market value thing. That doesn't
Got
mean
it.
that if something were to happen and there would be a catastrophic loss, that they could build the house for that amount and they would be left with, you know, some empty or bare bones structures.
Gotcha.
So the second section is letter B, which is other structures. And that typically doesn't get used unless you have a structure that's not attached to your home. Typically, it's 10% of your first coverage A. So if it's 300,000 for your house to be replaced, you'll see exactly 10% below that, which is 30,000 for coverage B or separate structures. So if you have a detached garage or a mother-in-law suite or a gazebo, I mean, there's all sorts of things that could be considered. And this cannot be removed. A lot of our clients don't have a separate structure, but it can't be removed. It's built in.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So the third coverage down is your personal property. You'll see it'll say contents or coverage C or personal property. And that's really all of your common household goods. So furniture, electronics, cabinets, appliances, pretty much everything that you own in your house is included in that coverage C. Now, what I always like to explain to the clients is this doesn't mean your high valued items like your Rolex watches or your high designer bags. This is the standard homeowners products in their house. If you do own items of that nature, then it's very simple to add. You would just call your insurance agent up and say, you know, I have a oriental rug or a fine rug that I want to get added to my policy, or my wedding ring.
Okay.
And unfortunately, that's something where we see people get surprised when something does happen. So just so you know, it's not covered. The next coverage down is coverage D, which is loss of use. That's an important coverage too. So if something happens at the house and there's a claim that needs to get covered and you can't live in the property, this is the amount of money that they're going to pay for you to live somewhere else. If you need to get to a rental property for a couple of weeks or months, or a hotel, that's the cap amount that they're going to pay. Some companies will give you a direct number, and some of them will give you a number of months, either or. Typically, they come out to the same. And then we come to your personal liability, which is probably one of the most important and least expensive coverages on your homeowner's policy.
Okay.
What that means is if you're sued for something that happens at your home, a trespasser falls, the textbook scenario, they can sue you. Someone slips and falls or trips over your garden hose. Children break through your fence and go swimming, and God forbid something happens, you're at fault. So you'll see increments of either 100,000, 300,000, or 500,000. Go for the 500. The increments are maybe $7 apart per year. So
lawsuits are expensive.
yes. So make sure you have $500,000 and don't risk it.
Okay.
And the last component you'll see is medical pay. Typically on most insurance policies, that's $1,000. And that's if you have a guest that's injured and you're willing to pay for their ambulance costs or something very minor, that's when that $1,000 will kick in. And you'll probably see a deductible, and that's what your portion is, just like in a car policy. Um, Once you have your portion paid for, the insurance covers the rest. And that's the main portion of your policy is those 5 or 6, pieces that you want to pay attention to.
Okay.
And when you're shopping around, look into those items and don't just look for the dollar amount.
Now, are there certain, we help people that are relocating from other states. Is this California specific? Does California have minimum requirements? Can you broker insurance outside of California? Let's talk about California for a little bit here.
Sure. So personally, I can sell in California and Washington, and Nevada, and many other agents typically are these few states, but it's pretty much nationwide. So the same type of rules and regulations and coverage types, they're the same in other states as well. So if you're coming from another state, I'm sure you'll have some exposure to the same terminology and verbiage in your home state.
Okay. Well, what we don't have in other states sometimes is earthquakes.
Yes.
So earthquake insurance, how does that work?
Earthquake insurance, that is separate. So on your homeowner's policy, there's 2 types of coverages that are excluded, and that's earthquake and floods. Now, here in the Central Valley, we may not be in a flood zone or an earthquake zone, but we recommend them because you never know, with all the activity that we've been seeing lately. I'm sure you'll wake up in the morning and you see your phone and you see all the alerts. And here in the Central Valley, it's very inexpensive. You can get earthquake insurance added to your policy for about $200 a year. Flood insurance too, it's very inexpensive. Those run between $300 to $400 a year. So yes, a good question. It's not included and it's optional.
And I know you've told me personally, we live in an area of Clovis that you're very familiar with, and you happen to know that the gutters and drainage areas tend to get clogged during heavy rain periods. And so you having that knowledge of my neighborhood, we're able to recommend that we have flood insurance so that if the rainwater comes in and starts creeping up closer to the house, that we'd be covered. So
right. And there's, you'll get your policy package and you'll get a jacket to your policy about 200 pages thick. And I know that no one really sits and reads these policy jackets, but here's my 2 cents. Don't assume anything. Talk to your agent about your policy, but you should know that wear and tear is never covered on your policy. It's fire, water, wind, hail, vandalism, theft. Add that water backup on. Flood is not covered. We've been seeing some of the older homes in Fresno have some issues with waters flooding in their homes, and they're not getting those claims covered because it's just old pipes. So unfortunately, insurance does not cover against wear and tear. So it's an unfortunate situation. But if you come home and it's winter and you see that the water pipes have bursted suddenly, the key term here is bursted. It has to be a sudden situation that the insurance will cover for.
Okay.
So just being an active, good homeowner, keeping an eye on your property, looking for leaks, and not being negligent and just avoiding them and ignoring them, but to really be proactive because those claims that are rejected are very, very expensive.
Gotcha. Fires also. We also serve a lot of the areas of the foothills, and here in California, there have been a lot of fires in the last couple of years. How has that affected insurance? What are you seeing out there?
So a lot of our carriers are pulling out of those regions. So if you're from the Fresno Clovis area, typically we did not have an issue writing in the foothills up until maybe 2 years ago. And it seems to be getting worse. So really any home past Academy is typically rejected, and it's considered in the foothills. But we do have an option for them. We have a carrier that will write the half of the policy, which is a companion policy that will cover the water, the wind, hail, vandalism, and theft. And then you'll write the other half, the fire portion, with the California Fair Plan. So we do have access to do that bundle for you. And it's very pricey out there, and we do have a competitive fit for them. But unfortunately, yeah, it's getting tougher and a lot more strict to write homes out in the foothills.
Yeah, and it's just so interesting because here in our foothills, we've got Shaver Lake, Huntington Lake, we've got cabins up by China Peak and Shaver. So I'm sure that even the existing homeowners up there have seen those price increases. So
Yes.
we've talked about a lot of heavy coverages, and people are probably thinking, oh my gosh, insurance is so expensive. What typically in the Fresno Clovis area, I know we've got a broad range of property prices here. You know, we have homes that sell in the $95,000 range to the couple $1 million. But what do you normally see as a typical like $300,000 property, since that's around our average sales price? And how does that homeowner's insurance get paid when you're buying a house?
Good question. So typically, a standard home, $300,000, can run you anywhere between $500 to $800 a year, and that's a big difference. I understand that there's a $300 difference there, but if you add your auto, that will help. If you add an umbrella, it's going to help. If you have an alarm system that's specifically hooked up to a central monitoring company, that's going to help. Some companies have certain discounts for certain occupations. So if you have a bachelor's degree or you're an engineer, there's an additional discount for those as well. You know, it could be very shady as far as, you know, what price range. And there's so many factors that are used to make that rate.
Okay, and then how do you, you know, first-time home buyer, do they have to come up with this cash all up front?
Yes.
Like,
Okay.
how do they pay for their homeowner's insurance policy if they're buying a new house?
Right. So typically it's included in your closing costs. So you'll do your shopping around and you'll choose a carrier. And typically you're going to give your insurance agent's information to your lender or your realtor. And they will get the process going. And when it's time to order the insurance, they'll contact us and we will do all the paperwork and send them the invoice. And your first year's premium is included in your closing cost. So you'll see that in your final settlement of fees, and they will pay us the first year. Now, depending on if you have an impounded account or not, that second year, either the mortgage will continue to pay us, or you can pay monthly or yearly to us as well.
Gotcha. All right. Well, is there anything else that we need to know about the insurance industry? You have any crazy stories of why we should get insured, or anything else that we should know that you didn't tell us already today?
Well, unfortunately, I do have lots of scary stories, but I don't want to dwell on them. I just like to, you know, move forward and do as much education as I can. And I think that it can be an overwhelming topic and a very boring topic, I'm sure. But that 30 minutes that you spend with your agent is essential. And don't avoid it, and don't procrastinate, and have that talk with your agent and just go over everything you own. You have that ATV, you have a boat, and they need to be insured too if there's an accident. Not so much on physical damage of your toys, but as far as insuring an injured party. So contact us. The best way is either by phone or email, and I'm not sure if I should just give that out, or you're going to be able to post.
Yeah, go ahead and share it now, and then we'll post it as
Okay,
well.
sure. It's area code 559-222-5000, and you can reach me anytime, and we look forward to hearing from you.
That's awesome. And then just one last thing I wanted to add too. We've had a lot of changes with the coronavirus and shelter in place. So if someone's not comfortable talking with you over the phone, do you meet clients in person?
Yes.
What's the status of all that right now?
Absolutely. So we are back in business, and we typically like to do it by appointment only. So we'll set up a time and make sure that it's a safe and clean environment for our clients. And if they have copies of their policies, we would gladly invite them to bring those so that you can compare them apples to apples and just know what you have. And yes, absolutely. Contact us and we can meet in person too.
Great. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you
the
for
time to
having
share
me.
with us today. And we look forward to hearing if anything else comes up in the insurance industry that we need to know about, that you'll fill us in.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.